that, we are at stage 10.
Oh,
Okay, that's correct. Paragraph page 872. Stage 10.
excuse me.
Okay,
Oh, I put a reconnect.
okay, go ahead. Okay,
Okay, hello.
hello, can you hear me?
Okay.
Okay, maybe we have like a bad connection. Let's turn off your camera, okay?
Yeah. Okay.
Okay, okay, can you hear me now?
Okay.
Okay, much better. Okay, so let's check. So we are at stage 10, paragraph page
Mhm.
872. Okay, and
Mhm.
our last headword was motion, new work type of lesson. Okay, so
Yes.
let's start with our revision. Ready?
Okay.
Okay, here we go. First question. When we're using a comparative form, how can we communicate that the difference between two people or things is very big? When we're using a comparative form, how can we communicate that the difference between two people or things is very big?
Mhm.
When we are using,
Mhm.
okay,
When we are
a
using
comparative form, we can
a
communicate
comparative form,
that the
we can
difference
communicate
between two
that
people
the
or
difference
things is
between
very
two
big
people or things
by putting
is very
words
big
such
by
as
putting
much,
words
far,
such as
or a
much,
lot
for,
before the
a lot
comparative.
before the comparative.
Very good. Give me an example. Give me an example, please. My new phone is a lot
My new
better
phone
than my last
is
one.
a lot better than my last.
Very good. And how can we communicate that the difference between two people or things is very small? How can we communicate that the difference between two people or things is very small? We can communicate that
We
the
can
difference
communicate
between two people or things
that the
is
difference
very
between
small
two people
by
or
using
things
words such
is
as
very
slightly,
small
a
by
little,
using
or
words
a bit.
such as slightly, a little,
Give
or a
me an
bit.
example. Give me an example, please. The weather today is slightly colder than
The
yesterday.
weather today is slightly colder than yesterday.
Is China slightly bigger than England? Is China slightly bigger than England? No, China isn't slightly bigger
No,
than England.
China isn't
It's far
slightly
bigger than
bigger
England.
than England. It's far bigger than England.
Reagan, are you a lot older than you were 2 weeks ago? Are you a lot older than you were 2 weeks ago? No, I'm not a lot older than I was
No,
two
I'm
weeks
not a
ago.
lot older
I'm a
than
little
I was
older
two
than
weeks
I
ago.
was 2 weeks ago.
I'm a little I was 2 weeks ago.
Reagan, is traveling by taxi much more expensive than traveling by bus? Is traveling by taxi much more expensive than traveling by bus? Yes, traveling by taxi is much
Yes,
more expensive
traveling by
than
taxi
traveling by
is
bus.
much more expensive than traveling by bus.
Megan, if a hairdresser cut your hair slightly shorter than you wanted, would you complain? If a hairdresser cut your hair slightly shorter than you wanted, would you complain? Yes or no?
Oh, yes,
If a hairdresser cut
if
my
a
hair
hairdresser
slightly shorter
cut my
than I
hair
wanted,
slightly shorter
I'd complain.
than I wanted, I'd complained.
Very good. Is Russia by far the biggest country in Europe? Is Russia by far the biggest country in Europe? Yes, Russia's by far the biggest
Yes,
country in Europe.
Russia's by far the big country
In Europe, do people feel
in
great?
Europe.
Okay, one
Mhm.
moment. Let me reconnect.
Mm.
Okay, here we go. Do people
Okay.
feel great sorrow when a tragedy occurs? Do people
Mm.
feel great sorrow when a tragedy occurs? Yes. People
Yes,
feel great
people
sorrow
feel great
when a
sorrow
tragedy
when a
occurs.
tragedy occurred.
Very good. Are you fond of children? Are you fond of children? Yes or no?
Yes,
I'm fond of
I'm
children.
fond of children.
Are you fond of traveling? Are you fond of traveling? Yes or no?
Yes,
I'm fond of traveling.
I'm fond of traveling.
Very good. What's the difference between a carpet and a rug? What's the difference between a carpet and a rug? The difference between a
The
carpet
difference
and a rug
between a
is that
carpet and
carpet
a rug
is
is that
large,
carpet
usually
is
covering
large,
the whole
usually
floor
covering
of a
the
room,
whole floor of a
whereas a
room,
rug is smaller
whereas a
and
rug
only
is
covers
smaller
part of
and
the
only
floor.
covered part of the floor.
Very good. What's a mat? What's a mat? A mat is something
A
we
mat
put in
is
front
something
of a door
we put in
for
front of
people
a
to
door
wipe their feet on
or people to wipe
before
their feet on
entering a house.
before entering a house.
Very good. What happens to milk if we leave it for too long before using it? What happens to milk if we leave it for too long before using it? If we leave milk for too long
If we leave
before
milk
using it,
too long
it goes sour.
before using it, it goes sour.
Very good. If an apple is unripe, how does it taste? If an apple is unripe, how does it
Mhm.
taste? If an apple is unripe, it
If
tastes
an
sour.
apple is unripe, it tastes sour.
How can we tell if a banana is ripe or overripe without peeling it? How can we tell if a banana is ripe or overripe without peeling it? We can tell if a banana is ripe
Mhm. We can
or
tell
overripe
if a
without
banana
peeling it
is ripe
by
or
looking at the
overripe
skin.
without
The
peeling it
skin of a
by
ripe
looking
banana
at the
is
skin.
yellow
The skin
with
of a ripe
only a
banana
few
is
dark
yellow
spots,
with
whereas the
only a
skin
few dark
of an
spots,
overripe banana
whereas the
is
skin
brown
of an
or has
overripe
many
banana is
dark spots on
brown
it.
or has many dark spots on it.
Very good. Okay, one moment. Okay, next. Would you like
Okay.
would you like to
Mhm.
be appointed to the top government position? Would you
Mhm.
like to be appointed to a top government position? Yes or no?
No,
I wouldn't like
I
to
wouldn't
be
like
appointed
to be appointed
to a top
to a
government
top
position.
government position.
Wait, is it possible to go surfing if the sea is totally calm? Is it possible to go surfing if the sea is totally calm? No, it isn't
No,
possible
it isn't
to go
possible
surfing
to go
if
surfing
the sea is totally
if the
calm.
sea
Is
totally
totally
calm.
calm.
Is totally calm.
Very good. If you were a company boss, would you allow your employees to use their work computers to surf the internet? If you're a company boss, would you allow your employees to use their work computers to surf the internet? Yes or no?
No,
If I
if
were a
I
company boss,
if I
I
were
wouldn't
a
allow
company
my
boss,
employees
I
to
wouldn't
use
allow
their work
my employees
computers to
to
surf
use
the internet.
their work computers to surf the internet.
Very good. Do people normally become a little deaf in their old age? Do people normally become a little deaf in their old age? Yes, people normally become a little
Yes,
deaf in their
people
old
normally
age.
become a little deaf in their old age.
Very good. Okay, next. In road accidents, who or what do you think is to blame more than anything else? In road accidents, who or what do you think is to blame more than anything else? In road accidents, I think
In
the
road
driver
accidents,
is to blame
I
more
think
than anything
the
else.
driver is to blame more than anything else.
Very good. Okay, describe a tennis court. Describe a tennis court, please. A tennis court
Mhm.
is a flat,
A
rectangular
tennis
piece of
court
ground
is a flat,
with white lines
rectangular piece
painted
of
on it
ground
and a net
with white
stretched
lines
across the middle
painted on it
from
and
one
a
side
net
to the
stretched
other.
across the middle from one side to the other.
Very good. What's the contrary of a wild animal? What's the contrary of a wild animal? The contrary
Mhm.
of a wild animal is a
The
tame
contrary
animal.
of a wild animal is a tame animal.
Very good. What do we use for making candle? What do we use for making candles? We use wax for making candles.
We use wax for making candles.
What do we call the sides of a river? What do we call the sides of a river? We call the sides of a river the banks.
We call the sides of a river the banks.
Very good. Can we use the expression at last for negative outcomes? Can we use the expression at last for negative outcomes? No, we can't use the expression at
No,
last
we can't use
for negative
the
outcomes.
expression at last or negative
What
outcomes.
do we use instead? What do we use instead? We use in the end instead.
We use in the end as instead.
Very good. Make a sentence using the words at last. Make a sentence using the words at last, please. After searching all day, at last we found the
After searching
keys.
all days, at last we
Make the
found the
sentence
key.
with the word in the end. Make a sentence with the words in
Then
the
make
end,
the
please.
sentence. Mhm.
We searched all day, but in the end,
We searched
we
all day,
realized
but in
we
the
were
end,
never going to find
we
the keys.
realized we were never knowing to find the keys.
Very good. About how many pages of this book are there left for us to study? About how many pages of this book are there left for us to study? There are about 60 pages of this
There
book
are about
left for us
60
to
pages
study.
of this book left for us to study.
Very good. What would I mean if I said he can't spare the money to buy himself a new suit? What would I mean if I said he can't spare the money to buy himself a new suit? If you said he can't spare the money
If you
to
said
buy himself
he
a
can
new
spare the
suit,
money
you'd mean
to buy
that
himself
he
a
has
new
no money
suit, you'd
but
mean
needs to use it
that he had
for
some
other
money
things
but needs to use
and
it
has none
for
available
other things
to buy himself
and had
a new
none
suit.
available to buy himself a new suit.
Very good. What do you do in your spare time? What do you do in your spare time? I, in my spare time.
I meet my friends in my spare time
Very good. Okay. Why do we carry a spare wheel in a car? Why do we carry a spare wheel in a car? We carry a spare wheel in a car
we
so
carry
that
a spare
if we
wheel
get a
in a
puncture,
car
we can
so that
change the wheel
if we get a
immediately.
puncture, we can change the wheel
What do we mean
immediately
by a spare room in a house? What do we mean by a spare room in a house? By a spare room in a house, we mean
by a
an extra
spare
room
room in the house.
which we keep
We mean
empty
an
for guests.
extra room which we keep empty for guests.
What equipment would you need if you wanted to paint your bedroom a different color? What equipment would you need if you wanted to paint your bedroom a different color? The equipment I need if I wanted
The
to paint
equipment I
my
need
bedroom
if
a
I
different
wanted
color
to paint
would be
my
brushes,
bedroom the different
paint,
color
a ladder,
would be
etc.
brushes, paint, a ladder, etc.
Very good. Can the motion of a car or boat make people, especially children, feel sick? Can the motion of a car or boat make people, especially children, feel sick? Yes, the motion of a car or boat
Yes, the
can make
motion
people,
of a car
especially
or
children,
boat
feel sick.
can make people, especially children, feel sick.
Very good. Okay, so that's the end of our revision. So let's start new work. Okay, but before that,
Mhm,
let's reconnect first. Okay, one moment. Okay, let's start. Okay,
mhm.
repeat. Fool.
Fool.
Very good. Okay, listen. Fool is a noun. It means a person who acts unwise or like an idiot, a fool.
Mhm,
For example, I've been fooled by someone. He made me believe this pen is very expensive. This pen is
mhm,
expensive. But I was surprised this pen is so
mhm.
cheap. You know, the expression I feel such a fool means
Mhm.
that
Mm-hmm.
they feel like an idiot because they had done something stupid or like an idiotic mistake. Let's
Mm.
practice.
Oh, okay.
What does someone mean if they say I
Mm-hmm.
feel such a fool? What does someone mean if they say I feel such a fool? If
Mm-hmm.
someone says I feel such
Mm-hmm.
a fool,
If someone
they
said,
mean that
I feel
they
such
feel
a
like an
fool,
idiot
they mean that
because they have
they
done
feel
something
like an
stupid.
idiot because they have done something stupid.
Have you ever been fooled by anyone? Have you ever been fooled by anyone? Yes or no?
Oh, yes,
I've been fooled by
I've
someone.
been fooled by someone.
Very good. Okay, next. Repeat. Owing to.
Owing to.
Very good. Okay, listen. Owing to is a preposition which means because of. For example, because of the lack of ticket sales,
Mm-hmm.
the concert has been cancelled. Or we can say, owing to the lack of ticket
Mm-hmm.
sales, the concert has been cancelled. Okay, let's practice. Give me an example of the
Mm-hmm.
expression owing to. Give me an example of the expression owing to, please. Owing to the lack
Mm-hmm.
of ticket sales,
Owing to the
the
lack
concert has
of
been
ticket
cancelled.
sales, the concert has been cancelled.
Very good. Okay, next repeat. Spill, spilled, spill. Or
Spill,
spill,
spilled,
spilled, spilled.
spilled. Or spill, spilled, spilled.
Very good. Okay, listen. Spill is a verb which means to overflow. The three forms of the verb spill are spill,
Mm-hmm.
spilled, spilled, or spill, spilled, spilled. Both are correct. For example, the boy spilled the milk as he ran
Mm-hmm.
to the kitchen. The expression there's no use crying over
Mm-hmm.
spilled milk means that there's no point getting upset when something goes wrong if we cannot do anything to change what
Mm-hmm.
has happened.
Mm-hmm.
Let's practice. What happens when
Mm-hmm.
we pour too much water into a glass? What happens when we pour too much water into a glass? When we pour too much water into a
When we
glass,
pour
some
too
of
much
the
water
water spill
into
over
a
the
glass,
edge of the
some
glass.
of the water spill over the edge of the glass.
Very good. What does it mean? There's no use crying over spilled milk. What does it mean? There's no use crying over spilled milk. There's no use crying over spilled milk
There's no use
means that
crying
there's no
over
point
spilled milk.
getting upset
Means
when
that there's
something
no
goes
point.
wrong
Getting
if we
point
cannot do
something goes
anything
wrong
to change
if you
what has
cannot
happened.
do anything to change what has happened.
Very good. Next, repeat former, latter,
Former,
the former, the latter.
latter, the former, the latter.
Okay, there we go. We're back. Okay,
Okay.
listen. The
Mm-hmm.
word former is an adjective. It means
Mm-hmm.
something that was in the past, former. For
Mm-hmm.
example, the previous congressman was good, or we can say the former congressman was good.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, let's practice. When a person
Mm-hmm.
leaves a job, is it quite common for them to stay in contact with their former colleagues? When a person leaves a
Mm-hmm.
job, is it quite common for them to stay in contact with their former colleagues? Yes, when a
Mm-hmm.
person leaves
Yes.
a job,
When a person at a job
leaves a job, it's quite common
leaves a
for them
job,
to
it's
stay in
quite
contact
common for them
with their
to stay
former
in
colleagues.
contact with their former colleagues.
Very good. Okay, next, listen. When we say Paris and
Mm-hmm.
Rome are capital cities, the former is in France, whereas the latter is in
Oh.
Italy.
Mm-hmm.
We mean the first
Mm-hmm.
mention was in France, whereas the
Mm-hmm.
second mention is in Italy. Let's practice.
Mm-hmm.
What do we mean when we say Beethoven and Tolstoy were both great men? The former was German, whereas the latter was Russian. What do we mean when
Mm-hmm.
we say Beethoven and Tolstoy were both great men? The former was
Mm-hmm.
German, whereas the latter was Russian. When we
Mm-hmm.
say
When we
Beethoven and
say
Tolstoy
Beethoven and
were both
Tolstoy
great men,
were both great
the
men,
former was German,
the former was German,
whereas the latter was Russian.
whereas the latter was
We
Russian.
mean the first mention
We mean
was
the
German,
first mention was German,
whereas the second mention was
whereas the
Russian.
second mentioned was Russian.
Very good. Okay, so now let's move on to our reading.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, so our reading is at stage 7, paragraph page
Mm-hmm.
584. Last headword was rock.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, starts it. What's the difference between to rock and to roll? S-
To rabbit
Stage
crawl.
7, 584.
84.
Uh-huh.
Hmm?
Okay, so rock,
Rocking
roll,
chair.
rocking chair. Okay, start with the first question. What's the difference between? Okay, read the beginning,
Oh, okay.
584.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. 84. What's the difference between to rock and to roll? The difference between
To rock,
between to rock and to roll is that to rock generally means to move backward and forwards or from side to side, whereas to roll means to go round and round like a ball. What a rocking chair? A rocking chair is a chair that moves backwards and forwards and is usually popular with old people. What's a rocking horse? A rocking horse is a wooden horse made for children which rocks backward and forwards. If you were walking across a park and a ball rolled your way, you'd kick it back to its owner, or would you pick it up and throw it back? If I were walking across a park and a ball rolled my way, I'd pick it up and throw it back to its owner. What am I doing? You are rolling a piece of paper in your hands. What's this? It's a roll of paper.
paper,
What's a rot, what's a
bread
bread
roll,
roll? A bread roll is a piece of bread that has a round shape and it's made for one person to eat. Teacup, cup of tea. What's the difference between a teacup and a cup of tea? The difference between a teacup and a cup of tea is that a teacup is a cup for tea, whereas a cup of tea is a cup with tea in it. What's the difference between a matchbox and a box of matches? The difference between a matchbox and a box of matches is that a matchbox is match in it. Male, a female is a girl, male or female. A girl is female. Who's your favorite male film star? My favorite male film star is Tom Cruise. Who's your favorite female film star? My favorite female film star is Audrey Hepburn. In the animal world, which is usually more colorful, the male or the female. In the animal world, the male
usually.
is more colorful. Is usually more colorful. Deal,
Very good. Okay,
profitable,
so we
local.
stop there for
Oh,
today.
thank